Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorial. Today we are going over the first in a three-part series I am going to be working on, showing you how to use a My Porch Prints kit to decorate a basic journal. And so the first thing we're going to go ahead and start with is the cover, so I'll be showing you how I did that today. And then the next video will cover how to put all of the journal pieces together, and the third video will be how to decorate the actual pages inside the journal. So to get started, we're going to take some journal words. These came from the Book Lovers journal kit in our shop. Link will be down in the description box below. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the ones that are shorter, that have more space on the end, and we're just going to cut that space off of the words because we're going to be using these in a sort of collage, and you want to be able to see the other words, so less is more. Next, we're going to take a scrap piece of paper and a book plate. This one I actually painted with some gold paint so that it would match the other hardware I have. And I'm just going to kind of roughly dry brush that. And we're going to use this as a guide by placing it on top of the scrap piece of paper. And taking a pencil, we're just going to trace inside of it. And you should have something like this. Alright, and next we're going to take our book plate and we're going to use this to put our words inside of and just kind of arrange them however you would like. I went ahead and did this off screen. And we're going to leave one of the journal words out to use later. And taking our scrap piece of paper, we're just going to map out a guide following the layout that we have inside of our book plate. That way when we lay everything down, it should be in the right order. And to do that, we're just going to remove our book plate and we're going to get some Mod Podge as an adhesive to help glue everything down. And for that you'll need a bowl and a sponge or a brush. And we only need a little bit of Mod Podge for this because we're just gluing down the labels and nothing else. So taking a little bit on our sponge, I'm just going to do a thin coating right on top of our paper. Making sure everything's coated, and grabbing our journal words, I'm just going to start placing everything down. Alright, and when you're done you should have something like this. And I'm just going to press it down, make sure all of the edges are flat, and then taking a little bit more of that Mod Podge, we're going to go ahead and seal over the top of it. Alright, next we're going to grab some distress ink and that journal word that we left out previously, and we're just going to distress the edges a little bit, give it a bit of a darker look, and I'm also going to put a little bit of ink lightly in the center. This is going to help that piece of paper stand out from the rest behind it. And then using a little bit of adhesive, either glue or Mod Podge, I'm just going to go ahead and stick it down. And following that, we're going to be cutting around the edges, although I forgot when I was cutting mine that I needed to leave this little bit here for poking the brads through, and I accidentally cut all of that off, so I'll be showing you how to fix that if you accidentally do the same, but here's your reminder to leave those edges. So yeah, right about here is where I realized that I had made a mistake. Trying to think through it. And how we're going to fix this is grabbing a piece of scrap paper. We're just going to glue our little collage right on top of that. And then grabbing our brads for later and a micro hole punch, we're going to be using a pencil to trace where those holes are and then marking around the outside to make sure everything's lined up. And now we can go ahead and punch those holes out. And sorry, by the way, about my computer fan. I got a new computer and the fan is just a little bit louder, so thanks for bearing with me. Alright, and after we're done putting the brads through, we can go ahead and cut the outside off. I'm using an X-Acto knife to help get around the curves. And when you're finished, you should have something that looks a little like this. Next, we're going to be taking our book that we made previously. If you haven't seen this video, I will have a link down to it in the description box below. But because we haven't filled this journal yet, it's a little bit at an angle still, so I'm just going to be popping something underneath the cover to make it a little more even and easier to work with. And what you'll be needing for this is some little book corners. I will have a link to these in the description box as well. Your book plate that you just made earlier, some brads, and this little handle hardware that I have. I'll have a link down in the description box for those as well. Some super glue, and an alligator punch. Although this is optional, you could also just use glue, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. First, I'm going to start with these corners. If you haven't used these before, they're really simple and really handy and really beautiful, so I like using them a lot, especially on the cover. All you have to do is slide it over the corner and bend the little metal flaps on the back down, just squeezing them shut, and they hold pretty solidly just as is, although if you don't want it to slide off at all, I would recommend putting a little bit of super glue down and then sliding it back over afterwards. And when it comes to the corners that are near the spine, there are two ways you could do this. If you put it on just normally, it's not going to work because of the way that the book opens. So you can either fold one flap down, which is the one closest to the spine, and fold the other one over the top of the book, or you can do what I'm doing here and just fold both of them down and try to get them as flat as possible. And using the super glue, we're just going to glue it down flat. Alright, and for our book plate, I'm going to go ahead and use clear gel tacky glue, but you could also use the super glue if you wanted. Just using a finger, I'm going to smooth the glue out so that it lies flat and press it down. Nice and simple. And next for the handle, I'm going to use brads to secure mine down, so that's why I need the alligator punch to punch a hole through the book. However, if you don't have an alligator punch or an awl or anything to make a hole through a piece of cardboard, you can just use the super glue and glue it down as is. But if you do have something to make a hole, just go ahead and follow along here. I'm taking a pencil and making little marks where the hole should go. And using that alligator punch, I'm just going to line it up and punch the holes out. And lining everything back up, just going to use those brads, push them through and flatten them on the other side. And there you have it. Here is our finished book cover. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I will see you in part 2. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!